Hello, Geoff Owen here. 5 steps to eliminating negative beliefs. This is following on from a post, a blog I did, and I thought I would just talk about how to eliminate beliefs, which they can be eliminated, you know. I help people eliminate beliefs to help them be present when they're speaking in public or on video like I am right now. So this is what you do. First of all, the first question to ask is, what is a belief? A belief really is the truth. That's a great way of looking at a belief, is that it's the truth. I'll give you an example, and perhaps you can think of examples in your life when you've just been sort of somehow as if there's this invisible force field that stops you from doing something. I remember as a child wanting to dive off the top board in an Olympic swimming pool, as it happens. So it must have been about 30 feet high or something. And I climbed to the top and I stood over the edge of with my toes over the edge of the board, and I was looking down and I was shivering a little bit because of the chill, you know, and I was just there. I must have been there for ages, contemplating, wanting to let myself go, but not being able to. And I was too afraid. And where the fear came from was the uncertainty and the meaning I was giving it. What would happen to me? I'm not good enough. I can't really do it. I'm not skillful enough. I'm going to hurt myself. You know, some of those things, there's some truth in that possibility, but it's not a certainty. So there's the uncertainty, and that was provoking me to have all this conversation with myself where I was just frozen, absolutely frozen, couldn't move one way or the other. And my eventual way of getting through it was to jump. I forced myself to jump first instead of dive, and that's how I gradually got through my fear. It reminds me of the book, doesn't it? Feel the fear and do it anyway. Well, that's one way of managing your fear. In my view, our fear, the fear that you experience speaking in front of an audience, or the anticipated fear, or being in front of a camera, or in talking to a big group of people, put it that way, is really inappropriate. It's unrealistic. It doesn't make sense. Because when you look at fear, fear really is the body reacting to the possibility that we might die. Something terrible might happen, and it's about the uncertainty. That's why our reptilian brain, the old 500 million odd year old brain, we deem it to be common to all vertebrates. The reptilian brain, chemically, non-thinking, will respond in the face of uncertainty and make you do things. It will make you feel unpleasant, so it wants you just to do something, either get out of there or stand and sort it out or hide. Now, that's all well and good when there's a direct threat to our physical survival, when there is an actual threat to our physical survival, but there isn't an actual threat to our physical survival being in front of a video camera or an audience. There isn't. So something else is going on, and that's where beliefs come into it. That's where the uncertainty provokes the beliefs, and the beliefs then provoke our old brain to do all this stuff to us, and we go into this reaction. So it makes sense, doesn't it, to look at your beliefs. If you can eliminate those, then you're not going to have this reaction. And that's what I find with the people I work with, and I found it with myself, actually. You know, I left the theatre, having been in a theatre for some 11 years as an actor, professionally trained. I left it because of my confidence issues, my internal confidence issues. No one knew on the outside how I was feeling. I was so good at hiding it. But inside, I just found it very, very difficult to manage myself. And consequently, I left. And that's where I began my journey, really, with exploring confidence and what that's all about. Presence, and confidence, and charisma, and what goes on between the performer and the audience. It began that journey, which has brought me here. Look, you see, that's why I'm here sharing this this knowledge that I've acquired and gained through my own experience. Okay, so what is a belief? A belief is the truth, and it's real. It's almost tangible. It's like a physical object about your person or within you, or you perceive it to be in the circumstance. Some people see it as if it's in the room. Other people really feel it. It's when it's the truth. Now, how to identify? So first of all, the thing to do is to identify the belief, and you do this through patterns. So identify your belief, a belief. You can have a load of them, actually. We carry lots of beliefs. They are identify the belief, the first thing you do. Now, the way you identify a belief is to look for patterns. You're looking for a pattern. Now, this will demonstrate to you that your feeling you're having and experiencing isn't inherently in the circumstance. Like my feelings about that were preventing me, which were provoked by my beliefs about jumping off the board, were not in the action, in the activity itself. It was what I was having it mean to me. You know? My fear was all about death, the possibility of death, when I'm jumping 30 feet into water. Worst case, I could knock myself unconscious. Worst. I could land awkwardly and have a sore arm or sore back or something. Do you follow me? It's not like there was a car coming at me and I couldn't jump out the way, and I could see myself about to go into a really serious situation where I could really die. Do you follow me? So identify your belief, and you do that by looking for patterns. So you might carry, first of all, look at the feeling. You know, you might be angry, you might be sad, you might be jealous, you might be envious, you might be having guilt and shame feelings, all those awful feelings. And then notice what you're saying to yourself, because it's going to be the meaning you're giving the circumstance that's going to be provoking that feeling in you from the which is the belief. The meaning is the belief, because a belief is a meaning. A belief is the truth, and it's the truth because you're making the circumstance mean that to you. The truth isn't in the circumstance, it's how you're interpreting the circumstance that gives you the meaning, which gives you the belief. Okay? So you identify the belief, the meaning you're giving something, you're looking for patterns. So for instance, if you're carrying a belief that I am not worthy, you're most likely going to find it really uncomfortable being in places where you think you need to be worthy. Worthy to be there. It could be a really, really luxurious hotel. Somewhere like, I don't know, the Ritz or somewhere. You might go in there and not feel comfortable at all. And you might be carrying thoughts of, I don't really belong here. This feels too uncomfortable. I don't like this. Do you follow me? When actually it's just a building with a name, and it can't hurt you. It's just that it's you because you carry this erstwhile unconscious belief that you are not worthy, that it will provoke you to feel and experience that the emotions connected or provoked by that belief. You know? People have it around celebrities. When they meet a celebrity, they feel very very lowly when they're just a person, actually. You know? So identify the belief, and then you basically look for patterns. Look for patterns. Okay? Now, and that will demonstrate to you that what you're experiencing that you're experiencing isn't generated from what's going on in front of you, because if it's happening in different situations, it can't be in the situation it's happening, can it? If it's the same feeling. Do you follow me? Otherwise, everybody would be feeling the same feeling, or having the same thoughts, belief, meaning to create that feeling. They'd all have the same thing. Okay? So once you've got the pattern, the next question to ask yourself is, when was the earliest memory of having that, of you saying that to yourself? You know, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I'm an inconvenience, mistakes and failure are bad. These are all beliefs, low self-esteem beliefs, beliefs which affect your self-esteem. That's why we call them negative beliefs, because it's not saying beliefs are bad, it's just a way of describing the beliefs we're looking to tackle that don't make us feel very good and don't really necessarily support our life. They limit our life, they get in the way of us living a way of living that we really want to live. In fact, it ultimately impacts the quality of our lives. These beliefs can impact the quality of life, and therefore your natural self-expression, which is what this is all about. This is all about getting you to a place where you can just be free to stand in your natural self-expression without premeditating what you're about to say, without learning, writing it down, scripting it, getting it perfect, getting it right, fearful of making mistakes, fearful of looking a fool, worried about what people are thinking about you. You just show up and you talk, you share. A bit like I'm doing right now. You can express yourself. Yeah, okay. So, earliest memory is the next thing. Okay, the earliest memory, you go back, and the time we're really interested in is up to about the age of 7. And you're going to be sort of not be able to be absolutely accurate. It doesn't matter. If you can't totally remember, that's okay too. Just fill in the blanks with how you think you would have reacted, or what you think your parents or whoever you're in this situation with would have said. It's usually your parents, because they're your primary carers. And the idea is to be there and just absorb yourself in the situation. What was going on? Where were you? Which room were you in? Who was there? Who was saying what? And play out the scene in your mind's eye and fill in the blanks, as I say. Just invent what you would imagine would have been said. You know, if you don't know, then what if you did know? That's the thing to respond to. If you say to yourself, well, I don't know. Well, what if you did know? What would it be if you did know? And then just fill in the blanks. So the idea is that you start to get involved with that memory, and you start to look at the conversations around what was happening. It might have been an event. You know, it might have been where you were punished by something, or your parents would have said something to you in a particular way that would have got you to start talking about this particular emotion that we're talking about, this particular belief. Do you follow me? So before I move on to 4 and 5, I'm going to stop here, give you a break to start to have a look at your earliest memory, and I'll be here with part 2. Let's just call this part 1. Part 2, where I'm going to fill in the blanks of 4 and 5. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Okay, so here we are. I paused it there for a while, and that gave me a chance to start to consider how to negotiate the next part, which is quite tricky. At least when you've watched this video all the way through, you're going to have a new perspective about your beliefs, which is the most important thing, and that's the beginning of the journey as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so you've got your earliest memory. Now, the way a belief is formed is through a meaning. You're giving meanings to things. And a child, I said what we're interested in is children up to the age of 6 or 7, is because they're their brain is whole. They're both left and right brain, and they have a kind of a wavelength going on where it's kind of dreamy, and children up to about that age just take things on at face value. It's arbitrary. It has no rhyme nor reason to it. It's just arbitrary. There was a recent campaign on television by a company selling toilet paper who asked children how soft it was. And some of the children looked around about 4 or 5 years of age, and one child said, as soft as a crocodile. You think, soft as a crocodile? It makes absolutely no sense at all. And it won't, because it's arbitrary. It's just their imagination. Children are so powerfully imaginative at that age. They're just absorbing so much information and interpreting it as the way they interpret it. So in this event that we'll call it an event, where you found yourself being with this belief, say, I'm not good enough. Doesn't matter what the belief is, I'm not good enough, which is a very common one for a lot of us, actually. I've yet to meet someone that doesn't carry that belief. Let's say it's I'm not good enough. Where did the meaning get created by you, the child, around? Where did the meaning get to create that belief, I'm not good enough? It's going to be in a circumstance. And it might be, as an example, this. It might be that your father's making a cup of tea, you come in with a painting and say, Daddy, look, I've made this painting. And he may snap at you, not now. This is an example I use often. And he might bark at you, be very stern, you know. Now, to children of that age, any kind of stern or seemingly unloving behavior for them is a kind of unconscious threat to their survival. Because if there is aggression, it's where there's a lack of love, they will interpret it, which means ultimately they won't be able to survive. So what a child does at that tender age, it will make sense of that response by the father. It will create a meaning that makes it make sense. Because if it can make sense of it, it means it's going to be okay. And this is all unconsciously going on. So I'm not good enough will be a way of coming up with a reason for having the father shout like that, because it can't possibly be the father. Parents can't be wrong. They can't. Children will look at them as the problem, and they will start to modify and make sense of it so that they can continue to survive and win the love of their parents or their primary caretaker or whoever it is they're at that moment interacting with. Do you follow me? So if the meaning was created by the child, by you, then you were creating an interpretation. And it's the interpretation that turns into the meaning, and the meaning turning into the interpretation, which gives it the belief, which makes it the truth. So whenever that child through life will come up with that instance or similar situation again, that same feeling will come, as if out of nowhere. It's an unconscious, subconscious thing. And what we're trying to do is make conscious the unconscious so we can actually eliminate it. And the way you eliminate it is you create new interpretations. So you put yourself back in that position as you as the child, and you start to reinterpret the situation. Give reasons why your father might be shouting. One way of doing this is to imagine someone that you trust now in life and magically bring them back to that time and invite them into the room to watch the interaction and ask their opinion. Ask what they think was going on. In other words, by Daddy shout at me, does it mean that I'm not good enough? And the person will obviously say, well, there's many reasons he's shouting. He might be stressed, he may have just lost his job, he may have been diagnosed with an illness. There may be all sorts of reasons that's nothing to do with you that he's being that way. So then you've got to encourage yourself to start to reinterpret why he's being like that. And you might say, well, Dad's very angry there. He's not normally angry, or sometimes he's angry and we have a laugh about it afterwards, or perhaps Dad's got a lot on his mind. You reinterpret it. The question comes then, well, who are you if you're not your beliefs? Well, if beliefs are meanings created by interpretations, you are the interpreter. That's who you are. You're the person creating the interpretation. You're the interpreter. That's who you really are. And that's a state of consciousness that you are the origin, you are the source of your experience of life. Once you get that, then you can start living life in a very free, very free way, because you're not dependent on the circumstance around you, or rather the circumstance isn't informing how you behave. Do you follow me? So the earliest memory, and then you reinterpret. You identify the interpretation, and then you reinterpret. And okay, you have a reinterpretation, and then you know that when you have that belief again, when it comes up in you, you'll start to have a choice around it, because you know you've generated this for yourself, that it's not the truth, it's a truth. It could have been any manner of them, any manner of meanings. It's arbitrary, as I've demonstrated with children who are the left and right brain, the whole brain state. You know? So it's also important to remember that if you wanted to, if that belief feels real to you, ask yourself, well, where is it? If it's real, and real is what we analyze as real, something that's measurable, tangible, and you can touch it and see it. That's what's real. If it's real, where is it? And you will end up saying it's in your mind. Even if we cut your mind open, with a surgeon, we wouldn't be able to find it, because it's a thought and it's something that's generated by you. It doesn't exist. It only exists because you give the meaning to it. And now you understand that you are the interpreter, creating an interpretation which creates the meaning, which creates the belief. You are the originator of it. Then if you originated it, you can stop originating it. You can actually reinterpret. Do you follow me? There's a great thing that Morty Lefko, where I was trained in this stuff, got training through him. He died recently, sadly, but he was an amazing man. Spent his life getting people to dissolve their meanings and stop their suffering. Something he called occurrings, the way things occur to one. There's another process where you can dissolve this meaning so you can stop feeling bad and stop feeling angry and stop feeling jealous or whatever it's going to be. And he described this process here as, not this process really, but a way of seeing who we really are as. If you imagine you coming into the world as this virgin piece of clay, that as you start to grow and you get taller and you get more experience, you start to pinch the clay and shape this clay with I'm not good enough, and a little bit of mistakes and failure are bad, and I'm not worthy, and all these beliefs we take on about ourselves, these negative beliefs, remember, that we take on about ourselves. And as you go through puberty and you grow into an adult, the thing is, what you're left with is the creation that you've created. You become the creation. And the tragedy is that most live the life of the creation rather than seeing that they are the creator. Now, when he shared that with me, I just thought it was a wonderful way of seeing ourselves. And if you can get that you are the creator, not the creation, then that will liberate you beyond measure, I promise you. And you can start then going into other beliefs and start to eliminate those and get a sense of freedom about your self-expression, which is what my work is all about. Okay, so just to recap, identify the belief, and you can do that by looking at patterns, where you're thinking the same thing in different circumstances. Then you go back to your earliest memory of feeling that. How far can you go back? And if you can't go as far back as I've asked you to, then go back as far as you can and fill in the blanks. Be there. Start seeing the situation Hear the voices. And if you can't absolutely get word for word, it doesn't matter. Just ask your question, answer the question to yourself. The question would be, I don't know. What if I did know? That's the question. What if I did know? What would I have said? What would they have said? And just fill in the blanks. And then to see how you're interpreting the situation, giving it meaning. And that meaning then is the belief, which is the truth. That's what beliefs are. It's the truth. That's what blocks us. It's like it's tangible, it's physical, it's there, it stops us. Then you reinterpret. You offer 3 or 4 or 5 different interpretations, which show you that it's not in the event itself. It can be all sorts of interpretations. And I've shared with you a way you can do that. And then you can then start to see yourself as who you really are, rather than your beliefs, which is you are the creator and not the creation. You are the interpreter, not the interpretation. Okay? Well, why don't you try that exercise and see how you get on? And why not email me? Let me know. I'd be very intrigued to see how you get on. And I think I'll leave it there. If you'd like help with this, I help people through this process. Sometimes we eliminate maybe 8 or 9 or 10 beliefs, particularly around public speaking. So what I'd encourage you to do is give this a try, and if you do need help, is to book a free consultation call with me. Utterly free, no obligation, genuinely. It's just to begin that conversation, just to start to get some inquiry going, which is going to be the gateway to your transformation and possibility around this stuff. Okay, all right, I'll leave it there.